Learn how to crochet a small bag with this easy small tote bag crochet pattern. You can make it as a small crochet crossbody bag or as a mini crochet tote bag. This small crochet bag pattern is cute and stylish and also sturdy and strong, perfect to wear as a shoulder bag or everyday purse.
Hello from Halifax. I'm Jo with Jo the World Creations.
We are going to get right to the video tutorial. All of the details such as the exact size and the step-by-step written instructions, they're all included in the written pattern, which is available for free on my website, and there's a link to that free pattern in the description below this video. For this pattern, we're going to be using 2 strands of yarn held together, and we are going to treat these 2 strands as one and crochet normally. For a hook size, use a K-hook. We're going to start by making a slip knot, but before we make our slip knot, we're going to leave an approximate 30-inch long starting tail for both strands. Leave a 30-inch long starting tail, and now make a slip knot. Place your slip knot on your hook and pull tight. Now we're going to chain 17. 1, 2. You go ahead and chain 17 and come back to the video. With our 17 starting chains now made, we're going to begin round 1. We're going to start by working into the second chain from the hook. Here's the first, here's the second. We're going to work under the top loop of this second chain and single crochet. Working in the second chain from the hook, single crochet. For each round in this pattern, we're always going to place a stitch marker in the top of the first single crochet stitch made in each round. You go ahead and place a stitch marker in the top of this first stitch. Now we're going to single crochet in the next 14 chains, making 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 14 chains, always working under the top loops. Working in the very next chain, make our first of 14 single crochet stitches. There's 1 in the next chain. There's 2 in the next chain. 3. You go ahead and make 14 single crochet stitches in the next 14 chains and come back to the video. I've just made 14 single crochet stitches after our first stitch. Right now we have 15 stitches made in the round. You should have 1 last chain to work into. Into this last chain, we are going to make 5 single crochet stitches all in the same chain. Still working in the top loop of this last chain, make 5 single crochet stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to work into chains on the other side. Here's our last chain where we made our 5 single crochet stitches. The next chain where we're going to be working into is right here. It may help to spread your work apart a little bit, and you can see the end of that chain, and here's the other end. You can also see where the loops make a little bit of an X. Working right under here is our next chain. We are going to single crochet in the next 14 chains. We're going to make our first of 14 in the very next chain. Working into the next chain on the other side, make our first of 14 single crochet stitches. Working into the next chain, You can see where these loops overlap and form a bit of an X. Right under here is our next chain. Here's where we'll make our second of 14 single crochet stitches. Here's the next place we'll work into. Under the next chain, here's the X. Here are the ends right in here. Make our third of 14 single crochet stitches. You go ahead and make 14 single crochet stitches in the next 14 chains and come back to the video. I've just single crocheted in the next 14 chains. We're now going to work into the last chain. This last chain is right here. You can see where these two loops overlap and form a bit of an X. Right underneath here is our last chain. And into this last chain, we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches in the same last chain. Working into this last chain, make our first of 2, and then make another one. There's our 2 single crochet stitches in the last chain. At the end of this round, you should have 36 single crochet stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36. To finish the round, we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet stitch made in the round to join. This is our stitch with the stitch marker. We can now remove the stitch marker, but make a mental note of this first stitch. Working into the top of this first stitch, slip stitch to join. This joining slip stitch does not count as a stitch and does not get worked into. Do you remember at the start we left a 30-inch long starting tail? If you notice any gaps or holes along the bottom here, at the end or at any point you'd like, you can use these starting tails to close or fix any of those gaps. And you would just do that with your yarn needle when weaving in these ends. To start the bag bottom, round 2, we're going to chain 1, and we're not going to turn. We're going to continue working in the same direction. We're going to start by working into the very first stitch. This is the stitch we just slip stitched into, and it's a stitch that's attached to the chain 1 we just made. Into this first stitch, we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches. Into this first stitch, make our first of 2 single crochet stitches. Place a stitch marker in the top of this first stitch, and still working into the same first stitch, make our second of 2 single crochet stitches in the first stitch. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 15 stitches. Working in the very next stitch, make our first of 15. You go ahead and make 15 single crochet stitches and then come back to the video. I've just made 15 single crochet stitches, and this is not counting the 2 stitches we made in the first stitch. Now we are going to make 2 single crochet stitches in each of the next 3 stitches. So 2, 2, and 2. Working in the next stitch. There's 1. And there's 2. Working in the next stitch. 1 and 2. Working in the next stitch. 1 and 2. Now we are going to make 1 single crochet stitch in the next 15 stitches. Working in the next stitch, make our first of 15, and the next our second. you go ahead and make 15 and come back to the video. After making those 15 single crochet stitches, you should have 2 stitches left. This here is the slip stitch that joined the previous round, and it never gets counted as a stitch and never gets worked into. Right beside it here is the chain 1 that began the round. In the last 2 stitches, we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches in each of these stitches. Working in the second last stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. There's one, make another in the same stitch. And working in the last stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. At the end of this round, you should have 42 single crochet stitches. Now we're going to remove our stitch marker that's in the first stitch made in the round, and working into this first stitch, slip stitch to join. I'm going to take a quick moment and weave in my starting tails. And while I'm weaving in these tails, I'm going to use my yarn needle and go round the opening of these gaps and just cross over a few times to close some of these gaps along the bottom. My starting tails are now woven in, and I've closed those gaps or unwanted holes. To start the bag bottom round 3, we're going to chain 1. We're not going to turn. We are going to make 2 single crochet stitches in the next 2 stitches. Starting in the very first stitch, the stitch that's attached to the chain 1 and where we just slip stitched into, we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches. Place a stitch marker in the first stitch, and still working into the first same stitch, make our second single crochet in the same stitch. And in the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. There's 1, and there's 2. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 16 stitches. In the next stitch, make our first of 16. In the next stitch, make our second of 16. You go ahead and make 16 single crochet stitches. I've just made 16 single crochet stitches. Now we're going to work into the next 5 stitches. And into each of these 5 stitches, we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches in each of those 5 stitches. Working in the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. And you go ahead and do that over the next 5 stitches. I've just made 2 single crochet stitches in each of the next 5 stitches. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 16 stitches. You go ahead and do that and come back to the video. I've just made 16 single crochet stitches. You should now have 3 stitches left. In each of these 3 stitches, we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches. In the third last stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. In the second last, make 2. And in the last stitch, make 2. Just a reminder that this is a slip stitch that joined the previous round, and this is our chain 1 that began the round, and neither of those count as stitches. At the end of round 3, you should have 52 single crochet stitches. Now we're going to remove our stitch marker and slip stitch into that first single crochet stitch to join. To start the bag bottom round 4, we're going to chain 1. We are not going to turn. Working in this first stitch, we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches. Place a stitch marker in that first stitch, and still working in the same first stitch, we're going to make our second single crochet stitch in the same stitch. Working in the next stitch, make 1 single crochet stitch. And we're going to do these steps one more time. Working in the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. There's 1 and 2. Working in the next stitch, make 1 single crochet stitch. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 16 stitches. You go ahead and make 16 single crochet stitches and come back to the video. I've just made 16 single crochet stitches. Now we're going to complete the following steps a total of 5 times. In the next stitch, we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches. Working in the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches in the same stitch, and in the next stitch, make 1 single crochet stitch. We've just completed those steps 1 time, and we're going to do those steps a total of 5 times. Let's do it one more time together. In the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches, and in the next stitch, make 1. We've now completed those steps twice. You go ahead and do those a total of 5 times. I've completed those steps 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 16 stitches. You go ahead and do that and come back to the video. I've just made 16 single crochet stitches. You should now have 6 stitches left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to complete the following instructions a total of 3 times. In the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. 1, 2. In the next stitch, make 1 single crochet stitch. In the next stitch, 2. In the next stitch, 1. In the second last stitch, 2. And in the last stitch, 1 single crochet stitch. At the end of this round, you should have 62 single crochet stitches. Now we're going to remove our stitch marker and slip stitch into the top of this first single crochet stitch to join. To start the bag bottom round 5, we're going to chain 1. We're not going to turn. Working in the first stitch, we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches. Place a stitch marker in that first stitch, and still working in the same first stitch, make our second single crochet stitch. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches. So 1 and 1. In the next stitch, make 1 single crochet stitch, and in the next stitch, make 1 single crochet stitch. We're going to complete these steps one more time. In the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. In the next stitch, make 1. And in the next stitch, make 1. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 16 stitches. You go ahead and make 16 single crochet stitches and come back to the video. I've just made 16 single crochet stitches. We're now going to complete the following instructions a total of 5 times. In the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. 1 and 2. In the next 2 stitches, make 1 single crochet stitch. It's 1, and in the next stitch, make 1. We've just completed those steps 1 time. Let's do it one more time together. In the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. In the next stitch, make 1, and in the next stitch, make 1. We've now completed those instructions twice. You go ahead and complete them a total of 5 times. I've just completed these steps 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 16 stitches. You go ahead and do that and come back to the video. I've just made 16 single crochet stitches. You should now have 9 stitches left. We're now going to complete the following steps a total of 3 times. In the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. In the next stitch, make a single crochet stitch, just 1. And in the next stitch, make 1 single crochet stitch. You go ahead and repeat those steps a total of 3 times. I've just repeated those steps 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. At the end of this round, you should have 72 single crochet stitches. Now we can remove our marker and slip stitch into the top of this first single crochet stitch made in the round to join. For the bag bottom round 6, we're going to chain 1. We are not going to turn. Starting in the first stitch, we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches. Working in the first, make our first single crochet stitch. Place a stitch marker in the top of this first stitch. In the next stitch, make our second. In the next stitch, our third single crochet. In the next stitch, our fourth, and in the next, our fifth. Working in the next stitch, we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches. There's 1 and 2. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 21 stitches. You go ahead and make a single crochet stitch over the next 21 stitches and come back to the video. I've just made 21 single crochet stitches. Now we're going to complete the following instructions a total of 3 times. In the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. There's 1 and there's 2. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 5 stitches. 1 in the next, 2 in the next, 3 in the next, 4 and in the next 5. You go ahead and repeat those steps a total of 3 times. I've just completed those steps 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 21 stitches. You go ahead and make 21 single crochet stitches and come back to the video. I've just made 21 single crochet stitches. You should now have 6 stitches left. In the next stitch, make 2 single crochet stitches. 1 and 2. Now we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch in each of the next 4 stitches. There's 2, 3, and in the second last stitch, make our 4th. We are going to skip the last stitch. We are not going to work into it. You should have a total of 76 single crochet stitches. We are going to remove our stitch marker and slip stitch into the top of this first single crochet stitch made in the round to join. For the bag bottom, round 7, we're going to chain 1. We are not going to turn. For this round, we are going to single crochet in the back loops only of each stitch around. These are the loops that are furthest away from you. And we're going to start by working into the very first stitch and insert our hook under the back loops only and single crochet. And we'll be making 1 single crochet stitch in the back loops only of each stitch around. Starting in this very first stitch, insert your hook into the back loops only and single crochet. Place a stitch marker in the top of the first single crochet stitch we just made, working into the back loop only of the next stitch, single crochet. And in the back loops only of each stitch, single crochet. You go ahead and do this all the way around and then come back to the video. I am almost finished single crocheting in the back loops only of each stitch all the way around. I have made 75 single crochet stitches so far. I have 1 last stitch to work into. This is my last stitch. Next to it is the slip stitch that joined the previous round. We're not going to work into that. My last stitch will be working into the back loops only of this last stitch. Working into the last stitch under the back loops only, single crochet. You should have a total of 76 single crochet stitches. We're now going to remove the stitch marker and we are going to slip stitch under both loops of this first single crochet stitch made in the round to join. Working under both loops of this first stitch, insert your hook under both loops and slip stitch to join. We are going to be working under both loops from now on. We are now going to start the bag body. We are not going to fasten off. The round numbers are now going to reset so that it's easier to count from the bottom up. One quick note is that the right side, or the top of the bottom that we just completed, it's going to be facing down. It will be on the outside of our bag. To start the bag body round 1, we're going to pick up right where we left off. I'm just rotating my work like this so that it's easier to work into, but we are not going to be turning. We're going to continue working in the same direction that we've been working in for this round. To start the bag body, round 1, we're going to chain 1. And once again, we're not going to turn. We're going to continue working in the same direction. We're going to start by working into the very first stitch, the stitch we just slip stitched into. Into this first stitch, single crochet. Place a stitch marker in the top of this first stitch. Now we're going to chain 1. and we're going to skip the next stitch. We're not working into the next stitch. We're now going to begin the repeat portion of the round, which is what we'll be repeating all the way around. The first step in the repeat is to single crochet in the next stitch. Just to recap here, we've single crocheted in the first stitch, chained one, and we're skipping the next stitch. We're going to make our next single crochet right here, and this begins our repeat. Working in the next stitch, and once again we're working normally under both loops from now on. In the next stitch, single crochet. The next step in our repeat is to chain one. Chain one. Now we skip the next stitch. Don't work into the next stitch. And the repeat starts all over again. In the next stitch, single crochet. Chain one. Skip the next stitch and start the repeat again. In the next stitch, single crochet, chain one, and now skip the next stitch. You go ahead and repeat the following steps all the way around. In the next stitch, single crochet, chain one, and skip the next stitch. Go ahead and repeat those steps all the way around and come back to the video. I am almost finished repeating those steps all the way around. I have made 37 single crochet stitches so far. Here is my 37th single crochet stitch. After making this 37th single crochet stitch, I have 3 stitches left. Here's the slip stitch that does not get worked into. I'm still completing the exact same steps that we've been doing all the way around. So my 37th single crochet stitch is here. I chain one and I skip the next stitch. That means I now have 2 stitches left. I'm going to do the repeat one more time. After making that single crochet stitch, chain one, skip the next stitch. To repeat those steps again, I'm going to single crochet in the second last stitch. Working in the second last stitch, single crochet. And now we still follow all the steps in the repeat exactly. After we make a single crochet, we chain one and we skip the next stitch, which at the end of the round is the very last stitch. We won't be working into that. Really quickly, let's count our stitches and make sure we have 38 single crochet stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 37, and 38. If you're ever in doubt, you can always count your stitches to make sure that you are starting and ending in the right place. Now that we've finished the last repeat, we are going to remove our stitch marker and slip stitch into this stitch. Working into the top of this first single crochet stitch. And just remember, we've chained one and we're skipping the next stitch before making our slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet stitch. So after my last single crochet, chain one, skip the next stitch, slip stitch into the top of the first stitch made in the round to join. Every time we chained one and skipped a stitch, we created a chain one space. We are going to be working into these chain one spaces in the next round. These are the spaces between single crochet stitches and under the chain one and above the skipped stitch. At the end of the bag body round one, you should have 38 chain one spaces. The first chain one space that we created was between the first two single crochet stitches, and then each time we chained one and skipped a stitch, we created a new chain one space. The last chain one space is the space between the last skip stitch and the last chain one we made before slip stitching into the first stitch. So this is our 38th chain one space. It's also going to be the very first chain one space we work into on the next round. We're now going to start the bag body round 2, and this is what we're going to be repeating for the rest of the bag body. The rest of the bag body is a simple 1 round repeat, and this is what you're going to be repeating for the rest of the bag body. To start, we're going to chain 1. We are now going to turn our work. Round 2 is a wrong side round, meaning that the inside of our bag, or the wrong side, is now facing us. We are going to start by working into the very first chain one space. This is the last chain one space that was created in the previous round. We are not working into tops of stitches. We're going right to working into the first chain one space. Into this first chain one space, we are going to single crochet. Insert your hook right into the first chain one space and single crochet. As it's the first stitch made in the round, we are going to place a stitch marker in this first stitch. Now we're going to chain 1. Now we're going to start the repeat portion of the round, which is what we'll be repeating all the way around. We are going to single crochet in the next chain 1 space. We are not working into tops of stitches. We're going right into the next chain 1 space, the space in between single crochet stitches under the chain 1. Right in here, we are going to single crochet. And the last part of the repeat is to chain 1. And those are the steps we're going to repeat all the way around. Working in the next chain 1 space, space between single crochet stitches under the chain 1, we're going to single crochet. Now chain 1 and work in the next chain 1 space and single crochet. Chain 1 and in the next chain 1 space, and if you have any troubles finding this, you can always just stretch your work a little bit apart. Find those 2 single crochet stitches, find that chain 1, insert your hook into that chain 1 space and single crochet. You go ahead and chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and chain 1. You repeat those steps all the way around. I'm almost finished working all the way around. I have made 37 single crochet stitches so far. Here was my first, and if you count your stitches to follow exactly what I'm doing, I've made 37 so far. Here's my 37th single crochet stitch. Then I've chained 1 and I have 1 last repeat to complete. At the end of this round, we should have 38 single crochet stitches. So I know that I have 1 last chain 1 space to work into. And now working in the last chain 1 space, we're going to single crochet. And now we need to remember that we need to complete the repeat, which ends with chain 1. So after your last single crochet stitch, chain 1, make sure you have 38 single crochet stitches completed in the round. We're now going to remove the stitch marker and slip stitch into this first single crochet stitch. Working into both loops of this first single crochet stitch, working in the top of this first single crochet stitch, slip stitch to join. At the end of this round, you have made 38 chain 1 spaces. Our first chain 1 space is between the first and second single crochet stitches made in the round under this chain 1. Here's our first. The chain 1 that we made at the beginning of the round does not create a chain 1 space. The first space that we made is right here. And then our second and third and so on, and it goes all the way around. Our 37th chain 1 space is between the second last and last single crochet stitches. And our last or 38th chain 1 space is between the last single crochet stitch and the slip stitch that we just made to join. Here's our 38th chain 1 space, and it's also going to be the first chain 1 space that we work into on the next round. For the bag body, round 3 and on, we're going to do the exact same thing we just did and repeat bag body round 2. Let's do bag body round 3 together, which is simply repeating bag body round 2. To start, we're going to chain 1 and turn. Bag body round 3 is a right side round, meaning that the front or outside of the bag will be facing us. Turning at the start of each round is going to help us create a nice, straight, and almost invisible seam. It's definitely going to be hardly noticeable. If your seam is not straight, I recommend starting again and making sure you're counting your stitches. As long as you're counting your stitches, your seam should be perfectly straight. You may notice some larger holes around the seam, but I found once the bag body was completed, they were hardly noticeable. However, if they're still bothering you after finishing the bag body, you can always cut a couple strands of yarn and then with your yarn needle, close those gaps up. Now that we've chained 1 and turned, the first step is to work into the first chain 1 space. Working into this first chain 1 space, single crochet, and place a stitch marker in the top of that first stitch. Now chain 1, and we begin the repeat portion, working into the next chain 1 space, the space between single crochet stitches and under the chain 1, single crochet. Now chain 1, in the next chain 1 space, single crochet, and chain 1. You go ahead and repeat in the next chain 1 space, single crochet, and chain 1 all the way around. I'm almost finished working all the way around. This is what it's looking like so far. I have made 37 single crochet stitches. I have one last chain 1 space to work into. After my 37th single crochet stitch, I've chained 1. Now working in the last chain 1 space, single crochet, and then chain 1. Now we can remove our stitch marker and working into the top of that first stitch, slip stitch to join. All rounds have the same number of stitches and the same number of chain 1 spaces. You should have 38 single crochet stitches and 38 chain 1 spaces. Here's our first chain 1 space that we created, and here's our last chain 1 space that we created. We've just completed bag body round 3 together. For the bag body rounds 4 and on, you're going to do the exact same thing that we've been doing and repeat round 2. You go ahead and repeat round 2 until you reach your desired height for your bag body. I repeated bag round 2 until my bag body measured approximately 7 inches high, which was 22 rounds in total. You can end after any round, doesn't matter if it's a right side or wrong side round. After you reach your desired height, fasten off your yarn, which simply means to cut the yarn that's attached to your skein and pull it through the loop that was on your hook and pull tight. And with your yarn needle, weave in all your loose ends. If you haven't already weaved in the starting tails, just a reminder that you can use those tails to fix any unwanted gaps along the bottom. Here is my finished seam after I finished the bag body. You can see it's very straight and it blends in really nicely with the rest of the stitches. And for reference, here's the other side. With your bag body now made, we're going to start the straps. I made my bag as a small tote bag and made 2 straps. You're welcome to make the bag as a cross-body bag and only make 1 strap and attach that 1 strap to each side of the bag. You can make the straps any length. If you're making it as a cross-body bag and only making 1 strap, you can make it approximately 55 inches long. For my straps, since I've made 2 and I'm making the bag as a tote bag, my straps were each 34 inches long. After attaching the straps to the inside of the bag, this gives a strap length of approximately 10 inches. We're going to be using 2 strands of yarn held together for the entire strap. Before we start, we want to leave an approximate 24-inch long starting tail for both strands, and we'll use these tails to attach the strap to the bag. We're going to continue using a K-hook. Leave a 24-inch long starting tail, and now make a slip knot. Place your slip knot on your hook and pull tight. To start, we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We are going to work into the 3rd chain from the hook. Here's the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Under the top loop of this 3rd chain, we are going to single crochet. Now we're going to chain 1. And we're going to skip the next chain. We're not working into that. In the next chain, still under the top loop, we're going to single crochet. Now we're going to chain 1. And we're going to skip the next chain. Won't be working into the 2nd last chain. In the last chain, we are going to single crochet still under that top loop. Skip the 2nd last chain, in the last chain, single crochet. At the end of this row, we have 3 single crochet stitches, and we've also created 2 chain 1 spaces. Here's a chain 1 space, and here's a chain 1 space. At the very start, when we worked into the 3rd chain from the hook, we left 2 chains unworked. The space in between these 2 starting chains and our first single crochet stitch creates our first chain 2 space. We're going to be working into these 3 spaces in the next row. Now we're going to start the strap row 2, and we're going to be repeating this row for the rest of the strap. First thing we'll do is chain 2, 1, 2, and turn. Now we are going to single crochet in the first chain 1 space. This is the space between this single crochet stitch and this single crochet stitch under the chain 1. Working into this first chain 1 space, single crochet. Now chain 1 and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Space between this single crochet and this single crochet. Working in the next chain 1 space, single crochet. Now chain 1, and we are going to single crochet in the last space, which is the chain 2 space. This space can be a little tighter than the chain 1 spaces, but we're still going to work into it. It's a space between the 2 starting chains and the single crochet stitch. It may help to spread your work apart a bit, and you can see under the 2 chains there's a space right here. And that's where we're going to make our final single crochet stitch. Working into this chain 2 space, single crochet. Every row has the same number of stitches and spaces. We have 3 single crochet stitches. We have 2 chain 1 spaces. There's 1, there's 1. And we have a chain 2 space between the starting chains and the first single crochet stitch. For the bag strap row 3 and on, you're going to repeat row 2. Let's do it one more time together. We're going to chain 2 and turn. Working in the first chain 1 space, single crochet. Chain 1. In the next chain 1 space, single crochet. Chain 1. And in the last space, which is the chain 2 space, single crochet. You go ahead and repeat bag strap row 2 until your strap measures 34 inches long, which is approximately 100 rows, or until you reach your desired strap length. You can make the strap any length you'd like, and you can end after any row. Doesn't matter if it's a right side or wrong side row. After reaching your desired height, you're going to fasten off your yarn, leaving a 24-inch long ending tail. Leave a 24-inch long ending tail, pull those ends through the loop that was on your hook, and pull tight. If you are making a tote bag, you'll want to make 2 straps, and both straps should be the exact same length. Now we're going to take our tote bag that we've completed, and we're going to turn it inside out. The straps get attached to the inside of the bag. I attached my straps 4 inches from the top of the bag body, and I did that for both ends of the same strap. I placed mine 2 inches away from the sides of the bag body, and just ensure that your strap isn't twisted before attaching the ends to the bag. Using the starting and ending tails and your yarn needle, we're going to attach our strap ends to the inside of the bag. I used 1 strand of yarn at a time. When attaching the ends of the strap, you want to be careful not to go all the way through the bag. You want to attach the straps to the backs of stitches so that the yarn doesn't come through the front of the bag. Using 1 strand at a time, simply go in and out, weaving the strand into backs of stitches and attaching the end of the strap all the way around. If you find that isn't as secure as you'd like it, you can then repeat those same steps again with the other strand, the second strand of yarn that's part of that starting or ending tail. And you are going to repeat that step for the ends of each strap. After your straps are attached, weave in all your loose ends. And now you have a brand new small tote bag. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I really hope you enjoy making this bag. I have lots of other bag patterns if you'd like to check them out. Lots with videos, tutorials, and I'll share a playlist at the end of this video here. If you have any questions or if there's anything at all I can do to help, please let me know. If you liked this tutorial, I'd be delighted if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.